Isaac, it's me. I wish I could talk to you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about everything.
Yeah, I'm sorry too.
I belong to nobody!
Hey, what's up guys? I am Brian. This is Tech Therapy. Today's video will be on Callisto Protocol, the PC version. I wish I could do this video on gameplay. I had planned on doing a Tech Therapy either walkthrough or playthrough to tell you how amazing the game is. Unfortunately, this conversation will be more about the utterly broken PC release, which you see behind me. This is on an 83-inch LG C1 OLED, and it's a mess. And I know it's been reported to be a mess. I got up early this morning. I had it preloaded for as long as I was allowed to, and fired it up this morning at about 4:30. Waited for it to unpack what was left, whatever update there was on Steam, and then proceeded to spend the next 30 to 40 minutes trying to figure out the performance. And I am running a 3090 Ti and an i9, and I have a pretty beefy system, and playing this game has been a chore. Now, I think the conversation between Callisto Protocol and even Dead Space, this is actually the spiritual successor to Dead Space. I brought this game up in a Tech Therapy video the other day about one of the major releases that I'm looking forward to. And to tell you about the gameplay and things of that nature, I would gladly do it if I spent more time actually playing it versus playing the settings, which is the curse of being a PC gamer. Now, this conversation will go this way. Being a PC gamer and a console gamer, I am in either camp, so I'll give you my perception of it. I know that as of today, I've spent more time playing the settings, which happens with PC gamers. There is so many more settings to flesh out than playing the actual game. Now, that's not just me chasing FPS or trying to get more performance out of my GPU, CPU, or my system. It's the game is broken in so many ways. I'll show you gameplay throughout this video of hitching and stuttering, and that happens at times when games launch. Now, typically, as a rule of thumb, I don't buy PC games the day of launch. Typically, there are more issues than console. There are tons of different systems, GPUs, CPUs, different brands. It's a lot to cover. But I think the overall conversation is twofold. You have the separation between the Xbox, PS5, console camp, and the PC. And then you also have the ongoing trend of games not being fully tested or even finished. Now, we talked about this with Battlefield and a million other games in the last few years that aren't quite done. And the challenge I have is that first impression in life in general is so very, very important. And I don't know about you, I don't really have time to spend with these games till they get it right. I'll never go back to Battlefield after spending so much time on that game being broken, and now apparently it's better 6 or 7 months later, where I spent over $100+ on its Game Pass or Battle Pass. Now, a game like this is much different. It's a more linear campaign, but I was very much looking forward to it. I'm a big Dead Space fan, a big survival horror fan. The creator of Dead Space, love him, love his work, so I was very much looking forward to this game. To have the experience be so broken on launch, especially with a GPU like this, and many of the reports that you're seeing is people with 4090s, not just a 3090 Ti, are experiencing huge stutters, dropouts, all kinds of performance issues. Now, quickly discussing the game, I love the atmosphere, love the sound, love the visuals. The game looks absolutely amazing. Again, I'm running a 3090 Ti, and the detail in the world, the immersion, the sound, all that stuff, fantastic. On the other hand, HDR is utterly broken. This is a growing trend we've seen. First time I really saw a really broken HDR was in Red Dead Redemption. Ported on that about 3 years ago. And then Resident Evil 2 was also broken. What I mean by broken is instead of more color or more peak brightness or vibrancy, what you end up with is a more flat, washed out image is what you see behind me, which is in HDR. And on PC, it's actually pretty easy to switch HDR on and off. I believe it's the Windows button, alternate and B, and you can toggle it and it actually works in game. And if you take it out, restart it and do it again, it still comes up with the same result. I'll show you that in the footage while I'm speaking. However, on all the other settings, things even like VSync need to be backed out of or restarted. The settings for this game, a modern game, is abysmal. No DLSS, no dynamic resolution. There is so little in terms of it's either disable or enable. Very lazy in terms of the settings, especially for PC. And I found that to be, even with a very popular or powerful GPU, that, man, I can only toggle this on or off. And the best part about PC is you can have as powerful card or as powerful of a system and then have a medium system or even a low system, and you can create the settings to get you to be able to play your game, whether it's change the resolution scaling, DLSS, things like that. AMD, NVIDIA, they each have things you can do, and they're missing from this. So it ends up making you say that even though I'm getting 120 frames with this, then ray tracing obviously cuts that in half at times. The swings and the stutters and the stops. This morning, I don't know if it took an update since this morning, I had full freezes where my guy would freeze, but then benchmark it and then turn on the benchmarking and see that I was still at 90 or 100 frames. So that stutter, that frame pacing, mixed with the terrible HDR. Now, for those of you that game on a monitor, and this is where I think the conversation is very interesting with PC gamers and console gamers. Console gamers, obviously, you're on TVs for the most part. Some of you do game on monitors, but most of you are console gamers and TVs. Then you have your PCs and monitors. So a lot of the footage you're seeing from even reviewers are on monitors where HDR is not as well known or prevalent. It's not there as much. And even if it is, it's a very base form of HDR. Then you have us in the middle that are both on TVs, or on TVs and on PCs, especially something capable like an OLED. So you don't hear HDR performance much. Even Digital Foundry, as much as I love those guys, 2 seconds of HDR, which is a huge part of the image. Now, what I mean about playing the settings, which I think is so distracting, is instead of enjoying the game, you don't know if you're playing the director's intent of this very bright, washed out, no contrast at all. And this is an OLED, again, it's got infinite contrast ratio. And also, I play in a large display, which is why I told you that was 83 inches. The banding that you can see, instead of being a darker color, you end up at this 15%, 12% gray, which is where banding and screen uniformity issues show up the most, not just on OLEDs, but also on a mini LED and regular LEDs. So you're kind of distracted by the DSC of if you have a TV and the washed out image. Now, people will say, and they did say this on Digital Foundry, to actually disable HDR. The challenge with that is then all of a sudden it turns very black, very vibrant, and then you don't know if you're playing the director's intent. Some games, HDR is a mess on PC still, even though it's actually pretty easy to enable and disable. Is in some games like Forza 4, Forza 5, HDR is a game changing. Those games look very cartoony without it. The minute you put HDR on, it almost smooths it out, gives it a more realistic look. In this game, there are times where it does look that way. It looks good, then it looks too gray. And in this scene, I'm here where I'm in the basement. I know it's red right now, but it gets very gray, very flat, and devoid of color. Now, in a horror title, you should have very dark screens. We talked about that with Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 2, here I am in this excellent remake, and the whole screen is basically gray. So I played that with with HDR disabled, had a much better experience. The contrast, the black level, it was scary watching them pop out. Having this faded mess, not screen tearing, but hitching and stuttering, even with, again, a powerful high-end GPU, is borderline unplayable. Now, for me, is this a big deal? Yes and no. Obviously, I have a YouTube channel. I can make a video on this. It's not actually wasting my time in this regard. But I think back to many of you whenever a game launches and you preload it and you wait for it and you pre-order it, you then sometimes have that day set aside. You are ready to just sit down and relax. That's where the time is so valuable for any of us, to spend that time. And I have very little time to be here screwing around with the settings, not because, and now I'll explain this to you guys this way. If you're not a PC gamer, messing around with the settings is not the same as console. On console, it's plug and play for the most part. PS5 and Series X now have, ray tracing modes, performance modes, quality modes. A lot of times you go into your options, you toggle that, the image changes, you go back in, you like it, you don't like it, and pretty much you're forced to play that way. The funny thing is, buddies of mine that have the PS5 and the Series X are nearly done with the game and can give me their feedback on it, and I'm still here in the first level trying to figure out what is going on and what the problem is. So, console gamer, you go in, you plug and play for the most part, you figure out which one you like, and then you rock and roll. PC, it's not that easy, especially in a game like this, where even something, as I mentioned, like VSync, you have to jump out of the game, restart the game. None of the settings are actually able to be changed within game. I believe brightness is even locked out of it. So you can't even see the differences. You're constantly starting and stopping and going back. And you can't tell what is director's intent, what is broken, and what you like best. And again, it'll bring out the screen uniformity issues. It doesn't look... It's so detailed, looks so good. The art design is amazing. But to have these issues, especially the performance hiccup issues, are terrible. Who tested it? Why are we putting things out so broken these days? This is a huge release. This is a release that so many of us were waiting for. And I have one other complaint. Why am I playing as this dude, Josh Hartnett, or Josh, Fergie's husband, Josh Duhamel from Transformers? They did this with Quantum Break. Why? And I played him in World War II. He's fine. He looks a little bit like the Butcher from The Boys. Give me the Butcher from The Boys then. You have the ability to give me something unique and something new, and then you put a not real popular actor. You don't have to have an actor. Just create him. I showed you the beginning of Dead Space where you're playing as Isaac. He doesn't say anything, and I liked him better that way. I don't need to see an actor I know in a video game. Kevin Spacey in Advanced Warfighter was fine, or Warfare. But this dude, him here, is not the best actor anyway. Just create a new guy. It's all about immersion. If you like him, I'm sorry. I just don't... And the sweat in this game is constant. The best sweating engine of all games. So this is not a review. This is a bit more of a rant of the industry. Now, why is this important? For me, just as a player, I like to play some of these games without reviews. With social media, YouTube, TikTok, whatever, it's more or less impossible not to see anywhere the review of this game. I want to just play it organically and enjoy it. I pre-ordered it. I preloaded it. Me having to wait for a patch, I'm already hearing inadvertently it didn't get great reviews. So you're already taking away my ability to enjoy the game that day and play it like everyone else. Now, for PC gamers versus console gamers, this is where it's funny. As a PC gamer, again, the ceiling feels limitless. You are getting the best performance, the best detail, and I will tell you that it's not close. If you can get things maxed, things, the detail, the frames per second, even that old Dead Space was at 120 max. Now, it's an old game, but you can't play that on a console. You can't play Dead Space at 120 4K maxed. You can't. That game is limited to the 360 or whatever, only on PC. So, in one way, or in many ways, you have all this power, you have all this ability, but you're paying a premium for it. Now, PC gaming can be comparable to console gaming. You can buy PCs for $400 or $500. It's not the most expensive hobby. It can be extremely expensive. That is your choice. That is my choice. But for me, paying a premium for that graphics card and seeing it do 4K 120 and seeing it do well is fantastic. 4K 60, bells and whistles, ray tracing, all that. But the funny thing is having a console. This is where it's an embarrassment of riches, I might say, meaning that I'm not complaining, but I have a PS5 and a Series X. Remember, I'm a content creator. They've been out for a couple years. But I was very close to returning this to Steam and just saying, look, I don't want it. But having, and this is a very unique situation where you have both, I cannot go back and play the Xbox Series X or PS5 version. I can't go from 4K, even though it's stuttery and it's not great, to these 1440p, half ray tracing, half resolution dynamic thing at 30. So we get stuck in, you don't know which one to purchase. You don't know which one to buy, even if you own them all. Now, I know, why you feel bad for somebody who's got all three of them or whatever it is. But for us as gamers, somebody with a PC is laughing at consoles for the longest time. And then days like this, the console guys are laughing at the PC guys, being, look, I already beat the game. I already moved on. And there's less thinking to do. But to have a PC, spend all that money, and have your games not be optimized is becoming a growing trend. I remember the first time I actually encountered it, I think was Far Cry 4, where the PC version was completely broken. And here I am with this game again. There's times where it looks absolutely stunning, but the hitching and the stuttering and all that, screen tearing will show up. We got G-Sync going. You put V-Sync on. The cutscenes stutter. It's just something that should not happen. And unfortunately, we're talking about that, ironically enough, more than if the game is good or not. That's the real problem. And the reason why I rather talk about that is because I can't enjoy the game yet. I can't give you a review because I'm stuck doing this part of it. So we're stuck talking about it as well. More and more, the growing trend of things not being complete, TVs not being done, software updates changing picture quality. We'll get that in a driver. We'll do this, we'll do that. At a few $1,000 or $4,000 PC, you have to wait for drivers. You have to wait for more settings. The settings here are so limited. Enabled, disabled. Where's the wiggle room for that? Ray tracing being this cool thing that cripples your frame rate, or it doesn't. I had ray tracing maxed and I had a slightly less performance, and then I shut it down, put it back, and I had no performance. So it's the loss of time is the real conversation here. We have such little time, and we spend it not just because we're PC gamers screwing around and checking the settings. Again, we're not squeezing FPS here. We're talking about 4090s, 3090s, having 40 frames and 120 frames, and this swaying. I want to love this game. I want to play this game. I want to spend this time doing a video for you and tell you how amazing the game is. Now I'm hearing the game's not getting great reviews. I still don't trust that. I'll play it myself. But I love the atmosphere. I love the graphics. But coming full circle, being a TV guy, being a settings guy, it's very hard to enjoy this game when HDR is such a mess. I touched on this earlier. Your PC community is on monitors half the time. They don't care about HDR. I've heard even when I comment on Digital Foundry's videos, people will jump in and say, who cares about HDR? Who cares about that? We care. I'm pushing you guys to get the best HDR experience since 2016. HDR, Dolby Vision, you gotta have it, you gotta have it. Half the time, it's broken. And now I'm in here with an OLED, lowering the brightness to compensate. It's an OLED. It's not that bright. How are you going to do with a Samsung that's 2000 nits? Is it going to be completely washed out? Don't you test these games? Why have we become the beta testers? I did a hilarious video on Battlefield 2042 or 2049 or whatever the heck it's called. Special shout out to Tristan, who's the only person who watched that video. It's hysterical. Watch that video. I'll put it in the description. But this beta testing as a customer, this spending $100 in season passes or pre-ordering. What am I pre-ordering for? Waiting for updates. It just shouldn't happen, and it's all that happens. And I think a problem is you have so many of these companies that are so understaffed, even though the budget is there. I heard that the 343 company that does Halo Infinite was understaffed during that game's creation. How is that not a priority for Microsoft? Why are they understaffed? Do you not test them? Now, I know PC is difficult. Again, there's so many different CPUs and GPUs, and it's open. But that's the strength of PC. But now you have, where should I have bought this on console? And I don't get that good of visuals, but then I'm here. And I say that about consoles. I love the Series X and the PS5. But to have to go from 4K, which was promised, 4K 60 was the target, to have to do 1440 or the Xbox One S at 1080p or sub 1080p. What are we doing? 4K's been out forever. And you have PCs that can do it easily. My 1080 Ti could do it. But it's not the lack of GPU and CPU or RAM. It's optimization. So as a PC gamer of all levels, if I'm struggling with my GPU's performance, what does that say for the rest of the AMD and NVIDIA crew? They can't play a game that a 2080 and a graphics cards from a few years ago can't play this game? So it's a time waste, and it sucks to have to make videos like this, but I'm tired of not making them. I'm tired of being like, all right, well, you know, I don't want to be a complainer. I don't want to be. I promise you the channel's not turning into that. But I'm going to speak my mind about this stuff. I don't have time. I rather spend my time making this video for you than have my time here going through the settings, checking it out, starting, restarting, turning this on, turning this off, and not playing the game. At least I have a platform to speak on and share that with you. And as a PC gamer and console gamer, it does piss you off because you're like, Jesus, really? To spend all this money and have PC be the last line of optimization. A lot of these games, they don't even circle back for. So for me, again, to send this one back, have Steam refund me, which they will. You should see the ratings on Steam, and then put it on the Series X and play it at 30 FPS with a forced motion blur, ray tracing on, performance mode. It sounds greedy in a way, but the fact of the matter is I've spent the money. I've spent the money. You spend the money for this technology, and so often than not, the technology is just waiting there due to poor optimization. So I'm very disappointed. Again, I'll bring it to you guys in a tech therapy video in some other way, but I had several videos to do. One of them would have been how good this game is. I'm very disappointed in the PC port. I heard the performance on consoles, PS5 and Series X, is better. They're still hitching, there's still issues, but HDR is broken on all three. And for HDR, again, to be such a selling point in gaming, for the most part, it has been an absolute waste. And like I said, simply toggling it off, you don't know if that's what the director intends. And if you're the person who goes for the director's intent, do I want to play it with crush blacks or very raised blacks. To have raised blacks on an OLED, or, you know, HDR is all about color. And to have this game be devoid of color or devoid of contrast takes away the greatest strength of survival horror. Is the, but you see the divided camp between PC gamers that feel elite, ha ha ha, and then a day later the console gamers are like, well, look, I beat the game and I'm on to something else. So it shows you actually why PC gamers and console gamers have always been so divided. I'm this new hybrid that's in the middle. I've been gaming on TVs with PC since Plasma. So I've always done both, and I enjoy both camps. But when you have the hardware and the optimization's not there, it's terrible. And this game, I wish I could tell you it's amazing. That's what I meant to do today. But to go and play Dead Space real quick at the end of this video, to go and play Dead Space and not have HDR and just have a clean image, I wanted to play that game all day. And to play this game more detailed with this actor, which I don't even feel like seeing. Like I said, like Quantum, why are you giving me annoying actors to play as? Just create it. It's a video game. It's not, it's like a cartoon. Just draw the guy. But let me know what you think. Did you pick this game up? Do you have it on PC? Let me know your performance if you do and what you're running. What's your GPU? What's your CPU? If you played it on PS5, you played it on Series X, S, or even last generation, let me know what you think. But are you tired of the promises? This is coming. Wait till this patch. Wait till this season pass. Wait till this comes out. To only have them broken upon release. You don't get the time back that you wasted today. The joking thing about game releases and gamers, sometimes you're missing work. Sometimes you are taking some time. For me, I'm not a tinkerer. Even though I love technology, it's not like I'm tinkering with my PC or building it. I'm trying to see if this game can run, but it's poorly optimized. That's not tinkering. That's broken on every level. And do I think the game's unplayable? No, I can still play it. But for many of you on PC that play these games for the smoothest frame rates, the hitching, the stuttering, the freezing, it's going to ruin your experience. And I would say don't bother. Wait for an update. Perhaps get your money back from Steam or wherever you bought it. And then down the road, rebuy it at a discount. And for the developer, at the end of this video, I'll tell you, as a developer, you're not going to get these people back. You mess it up the day it comes out. When it's $70, they're coming back when it's $15. You only have the one shot. And we've talked about this with gaming. We mentioned this with Battlefield. I have a friend begging me to go back to Battlefield. I've already wasted over $100 on that game and hours of my life. I don't want to go back to it. 6 months later. Halo, co-op, 7 months later. Come on. This is your job. All your job is to do is put the game out. Make a good game. This has no other purpose than to come out and give you a great experience. And a game like this is not a multiplayer title. You're an atmospheric horror game. Did you not test it on all hardware before releasing it? This is getting to be so common. But the beginning of this video game year and last year, all we said was, I cannot wait for this group of games. Not great. Terrible release. Optimization issues. On console. Forget about just PC. So, the end of this long-ass video, I went from super excited this morning, around 4 in the morning, before I went to work. Fire it up like a little kid. I'm not filming it. I just want to play it like everybody else. And it's broken. As I'm getting up and getting ready to do the rest of my day, I look down and saw that I spent an hour and a half trying to figure it out. And what's funny about Steam, it'll tell you I played the game for 5 hours. And I'm on the first level. That's it. All right, guys, I'm Brian. This is Tech Therapy. I don't know, it's a half an hour. These videos will be long-form discussions. We'll get back to our other content, but I'm done not talking about things like this. You will see more Tech Therapy videos like this. They won't all be rants or be negative. That is not my intent, is to ever be toxic or negative. I'm not this... I don't want that to be the case. I want to tell you how amazing it is. Great design, gorgeous. I do not want to see the actor's face. Not a big fan of him anyway, but I appreciate what I think they're trying to do. But the thing is, you did it. You're not having server issues. You did it. You got it out. Fix it. But if you're watching this as a PC person, do not buy the game until you read somewhere or see somewhere that it's ready. All right, guys, I'm Brian from Brian's Tech Therapy. I'll see you in the comments. Love you guys. Take care.